The 3.3 patch livestream announced that the banner which will rerun alongside Wanderers is Itto, which means our favorite goofy guy from Inazuma is coming back in around a week from now. Compared to most other units, the initial release was rather drama-free for Itto, as he was pretty much what people expected him to be, a reliable main damage dealer who could complete the structure of the mono Geo Team, while not exactly setting the world of Genshin on fire. However, it's been 1 year since then, and the last Geo character released during this time span was Yunjin back during Lantern Rite, somebody who didn't even fit the team. Actually, since then there have been exactly 0 releases who could fit the team. While the team hasn't really grown old by any means, since the meta in this game is pretty stagnant, it's abundantly clear at this point that Geo has some structure issues, which make it harder for people to build a proper team around characters like Itto. Let's start from the basics. Itto is an elemental burst-tied character, whose damage relies on stacks that he can build through his elemental skill and normal attacks, which he can unleash through his charged attacks. His build relies on defensive stats, which result in massive attack buffs he receives once he activates his elemental burst. For this reason, being able to use his burst consistently is instrumental for the team's rotations, and since its energy cost is rather high at 70, he has to be surrounded by supports who can provide him of the particles he needs. Standard Itto teams run with 3 Geo units at least, for various reasons. First one is that the team's dedicated support, Goro, requires at least 2 Geo teammates alongside him to provide the team of his full buffs. Second one is more damning, Geo units in general have underwhelming particle generation, and there really isn't a specific Geo unit that can single-handedly function as a battery for Itto, like Diana can do for Ayaka for example. This means that Geo teams are often forced to run a 3 Geo units build as their core, and a flex unit for the remaining slot. This isn't particularly bad, since Goro's widespread buffs ensure all of his Geo teammates will do pretty great damage. The issue is actually the 4th slot, as there just aren't many non-Geo units that synergize well with the team. On other types of teams, the flex slot usually either goes to an Anemo unit that can provide significant buffs thanks to resistance shred mechanics, or versatile support such as Bennett. In the case of Geo, neither is an incredible fit with the team, since Bennett is penalized by the fact the units on this team don't benefit from attack-related buffs nearly as well as most other units in the game, and Anemo doesn't synergize with the Geo element at all. The other option is using a sub-DPS, but that's also problematic because units like Xingqiu, Beidou, and Yelan require normal attacks to generate off-field damage, which goes in contrast with Itto's charged attack-reliant style, and unconditional sub-DPS such as Xiangling and Ye really need a dedicated battery alongside them to be used, which you can't do here since 3 slots are already filled. The only sub-DPS that works decently on the team is Fischl, but even she is limited by the fact the rest of the team just doesn't synergize well with her, so she won't be getting anything comparable to the Bennett or Anemo buffs she gets on another team. For this reason, the preferable option usually is a 4 Geo lineup, with Zhongli in the 4th slot. He's a pretty good choice, because he provides a sturdy shield, more Geo particles, some resistance shred, and situationally decent AoE elemental burst damage. This lineup actually works pretty well, and is generally regarded as one of the best options for Itto team damage-wise. Having a shield is also great for the fact it makes using Serpent Spine much easier for Itto, as its passive relies on building stacks which get removed if the user takes damage. Since Serpent Spine is the second best weapon choice for Itto behind his signature weapon, this is pretty relevant. The worrying aspect, however, is that this establishes Geo-based teams as teams where only Geo units fit well, which also means that if you're missing some of the good ones, replacing them becomes problematic. Take Albedo as an example. He released as a pretty average character that really wasn't a great pull for most people, and then he had a rerun right after Itto's initial release, where MiHoYo also released arguably his best weapon for a limited time during an event, for free. If you missed that, you've possibly lost access to the best weapon option for Albedo forever, just not great. If you're missing Albedo, you're missing the only great Geo sub-DPS who can fit on the team, who also happens to be the best particle generator for Itto. The same goes for other units too, as the team becomes very bad if you're somehow missing Goro, and it's still considerably penalized compared to its full potential if you're missing his C6, and if you don't have Zhongli, good luck using Serpent Spine. Of course, these units aren't completely irreplaceable, rather you can't really replace them without having considerably worse results. Honestly, this kind of limitation is just ridiculous for a team that isn't even particularly incredible at full potential, just very solid. I'm not done yet. miHoYo locked a significant portion of the team's damage behind Goro's C6, so during his initial run, many were led to keep pulling on Itto's even after they got a copy of the latter. As a result, many people who did that got multiple copies of Itto. Probably expecting people would pursue Goro's C6, miHoYo had the brilliant idea to make Itto's first 2 constellations mediocre, just to put another unneeded limitation on him. In fact, if anybody tells you Itto's C2 is great because it fixes his energy issues, just know that they're lying to you. While it technically does, if you consider that Itto's best teams require 3 or 4 Geo units nonetheless, you'll understand that he didn't have particular energy issues to fix in the first place. They had a chance to make the situation better with Dendro's release, but they completely botched it by not creating new elemental reactions between the 2 elements. Okay then, I get it miHoYo, you really want me to only run Geo units, but where are they then? They haven't released a Geo unit that fits the team ever since Itto's first release. It just seems there is a lack of a proper direction when it comes to this team, at least compared to other teams. I'm done with the rant now. All in all, Itto isn't in a bad spot, and if you have the right units to pair him with, he's also a decent pull. However, if you're afraid to invest on a team who might get updates much more rarely than other teams, skipping is fine. Make sure to let me know what you thought about the video, and if you liked it, put a thumbs up and subscribe.